From the Fathead Studio in Speedway, Indiana, this is The Skinny.
Oh, there you are, sweet Jesus. Come back to Papa.
The highs and lows, are just can be pretty brutal, that place. But, I think that's what is so fun about it is the challenges.
I saw Will Power smack the wall out of 4 with 10 to go. I mean, he's still going.
Dixon?
No. Connor.
Oh, Connor, yeah.
Yeah, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, Connor, and, you got to pick a direction, pal, and I'll stick with you.
Oh, I don't know. You lose track about halfway through.
I go to move when it's full of methanol. Both of them are full of methanol. Pop, big bang. I turn around and the glasses are smoking. And he goes, whoa, good thing he gave me those, right?
I'm Scott Dixon.
I'm Antron Brown.
Hey, I'm Ron Cap.
I'm Connor Daly.
I'm James Hinchcliffe.
Hi, I'm Tony Stewart, and this is The Skinny.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to The Skinny. I'm Ken Stout. That's Rico Elmore. We're already having a great time on the set. Smoke is here. I'm just going to tell you who's here already. Michael Young, that's his name back there behind the board, and our producer, Stephen Grine, is with us as well. So full house here inside of the studio. Having a great time already. He's a championship-winning driver, as we all know. Championship-winning team owner. Also a series owner, a track owner, a promoter. There's really not much in the industry he hasn't done and excelled at. It's pretty incredible, man, to watch you because you continue to challenge yourself and you thought, hey, everything's going pretty well. Let me start an NHRA team. I've got a little extra time.
Yeah, that was a great idea, by the way. No, it has been, actually. I'll be honest, it's one of the best things I feel like I've done for myself in my career. It's definitely a new challenge, but I think the one thing that I've really enjoyed about the sport is just the fact that it is so different, is way outside the box of anything I've ever done before. So it's really stimulated my brain to start thinking and getting excited about things that are new and different again.
So as you step out of, well, you haven't stepped out of NASCAR, obviously, but as you start the NHRA team, and Matt Hagan's team, we should say, is pretty established, but Leah's team, brand new. You had to really scrap and build that one from nothing, and already enjoying some success there, by the way, so congratulations on that. But is there anything that you can draw from the NASCAR side that applied to the NHRA team owner side?
I think just how to manage people more than anything, but it's, there's challenges to big groups and there's challenges to small groups as well. I mean, you look at the Cup side where we have 360 employees at SHR, Ooh. And then you come down to TSR with the sprint car team with Donnie Schatz's crew, and there's 3 guys on there. So I tell everybody, if somebody's having a bad day at SHR, it's 1/3 of 1% of the equation. Where you have somebody on Donnie Schatz's crew that's having a bad day, it's 33% of the equation. So sometimes it's harder to manage small groups than big groups, but you learn how to do both. And then having 24, 25 people on the TSR Nitro side, it makes that a little easier to manage just because I'm used to doing small scale to large scale, and this is somewhere in between.
Is that primarily your position of managing people? I mean, the reason I ask is, do you have the knowledge to, I don't know what it would be. I don't, if I wouldn't say ordering parts. I'm sure you have people that do that, but the lack of knowledge, I guess, is what I want to point out on the NHRA side. How do you fill that void?
You get somebody like Kelly Antonelli to run the show. Okay. I mean, that's literally been the key to it. I mean, Kelly has done so much in drag racing. We got her from JFR. And she has literally been my saving grace. I mean, she runs the show. So my role is just the cheerleader. I'm the one that comes in, makes everybody laugh, makes sure everybody has everything they need. But Kelly really is the one that really is well-rounded in the sport, and it gives me the opportunity to spend more time with the teams individually and learn the stuff that I don't know so far.
The interesting part is, of course, watching Tony's success and his other ventures, watching you come into the NHRA and, as a friend and knowing you like I do, the excitement and the energy that is there with you, with that team. Yes, it's your wife, but, you've got another team as well, always up. And what you're doing with this group is amazing. And it's starting to show. I mean, the funny car team was already, pretty well established. Dickie and, pretty much the same crew came there to do that. And then, you got Neil, first-time crew chief, and a bunch of guys that you assembled, or he assembled, or your group assembled and brought in. And I always get a kick out of at the event, or at the events, the crews, how they gel. You know what I mean? And it's amazing because if you have the right leadership, some people need to be handled, some people don't need to be handled, talked to, and it's just amazing how your whole group is gelling. Of course, Dickie and them together a long time. Neil's group, some of them have worked together, not worked together, and so I think you're doing an incredible job with it, and I'm happy for you because I see the excitement in you and the joy of being there and being involved in it. So most days. So.
Thank you. It's but I think it even goes a step further than that. I mean, you have that camaraderie within each of those two teams individually. But what we have this year that I didn't see when Lee and I were dating and when they were both driving for Don is there's a really tight connection amongst the two teams as one. And that's something we stress at the shop, that we're one team, all team. And that transfers over when we're at the racetrack. If one side, is out for the day and the other side's getting ready for the finals, and that final round and that turnover is pretty short. Guys from the other team are going over and helping. And, if Matt's out for the day and Leah's still in, Matt's up at the line watching Leah. And if Leah's out, Matt's still in, Leah's up watching Matt. And the camaraderie we have with two teams gelling as one is probably the most important thing to me, and how we're doing things a little different.
It's pretty impressive, and I think about the situation we're in, or you're in, I should say, and I definitely want to focus on that coming up on the next segment. By the way, congratulations on the marriage. We haven't had you on the show since you married Leah, of course, and I want to dig a little bit deeper in that relationship in terms of racing, because it's a fairly unique situation that can be both productive and volatile. And I don't know, where you guys are at on that, which is why I want to ask you a little bit more about it. And of course, we also want to focus in on your Series SRX, because boy, has it been positive and phenomenal. The racing has been absolutely incredible. So great stuff. Stay with us. We've got a lot more coming your way with Mr. Tony Stewart here in the studio.
In control of everything that I put in my mouth for 3.5 weeks.
So he was cool with the SpaghettiOs.
No SpaghettiOs. The only time.
Well, that's just wrong.
The Skinny is brought to you by Toyota. Toyota, let's go places. Lucas Oil. Lucas Oil, keep that engine alive. General Tire. General Tire delivers. And Fatheads Eyewear. Fatheads Eyewear, hardcore since '04.
Welcome back to the Skinny. I'm Ken Stout, Rico, Elmore, and we have Tony Stewart in the studio as well. Michael Young, back behind the board, was about to tell a story.
It's been a long time with Tony Stewart. We'll save those stories for another day.
Really? All of them? Come on,
we'll
man.
Save them for another day.
Did he ditch you?
No, there's one time, and Tony, I don't know if you remember this or not. First time Tony was running in the IRL at that time. I'm sitting at the stoplight at 24th and Georgetown, and I'm sitting there. All of a sudden, this car pulls up next to me, and it's going, run, 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 run. It's like, it's 7 in the morning. What's going on? And I look over, and it's him, and he goes peeling out into gate 9 or something.
Ready to race.
He's ready to go.
I probably hadn't been to bed yet, to be honest.
That's probably what happened.
And let me guess, he was running late.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he was. I'm sure he was.
Drivers meeting at 8.
Listen, I'm trying to understand what I would have been doing on the road at 7 in the morning in Indy.
Clearly coming home.
Yeah. I mean, if there's actually an end to that story, I'm going to still put my money. I'm going to put 500 on I was still coming home. So, $500 on coming home.
We had Mike Holland here and did a great show with him, and you're one of the drivers he brought up. Boy, he has high accolades about you, your talents.
That's good. I thought you were going to tell me.
No.
Man, I wish I wouldn't have ran that guy.
Yeah, no, it was all good. Actually, the story that he brought up was when Chip was able to put together the deal with Target and Home Depot together, and he told the story about how he had both the CEOs on the phone and was able to make that happen. But Mike has really speaks very, very highly of you, and I think it's your talent as a driver. Is he put you as good as anybody he's ever seen?
I'll send him a check here tomorrow. No, those guys were awesome. I mean, Mike and everybody at Chip Ganassi Racing, when I did the double in 2001, that was one of the coolest events I ever did. You know, literally I'd been out of a car for 1 year, and it was amazing how much the technology changed in a 2-year span. And to get in there, and I mean, it literally took 2 days to start understanding what they were talking about with an aero number they were talking to each other about on the radio when we would plug in after a run. I'm like, what is this aero number? And finally, they got me to understand what it was. But it was a really cool experience. We led the race. You know, I remember Chip and I during the red flag, we were leading the race during the red and talking about one of two options, what to do when they open the pit. And we took the aggressive option and it bit us. I mean, we got a caution when we didn't need a caution, but still rebounded from it to finish sixth. So, you know, really cool experience running with those guys.
So you had Chip on the radio with you at the time?
God, no. Oh. No way. I couldn't have had Chip
I was
on the
going to say,
radio.
because he's not on the radio now.
No.
Typically it's
No.
Mike or whoever, one of the car chiefs are.
We literally had a red flag and we were all out of the cars. We had a time frame that we had to leave Indy by to be at Charlotte for the 600 on time. And that was Chip's first question. He goes, what are you going to do? I said, well, Gibbs is in North Carolina. We're here in Indy. This has been my lifelong dream. He's not up here to pull me out of the car to get me out of here. We're going to finish this. And I'll just have to deal with the consequences when I get down there. Luckily, we got down there in time.
You've never had to do that, so that's...
Yeah, I'm pretty good at asking for forgiveness versus permission a lot. So, but luckily, we finished the race and still got down there in time. But, yeah, we had some tough decisions to make during a red flag there, and we talked strategy. And, you know, we knew that we were gambling to win the race. We weren't gambling to run into the top 5. We were gambling to win the race. So that was the goal, and we went there.
So the first one that you did after you got out and got to Charlotte and ran that, how did you feel after that race?
Terrible, like literally terrible. I remember, you know, at that time when you finished the race, 2nd through 5th went to the Unical pumps, and Dale Senior had run ahead of me, and I don't remember where I finished 4th, I guess, and. I remember him getting out and coming to the car, and I had the net down, but I just was exhausted and was just sitting in there. And he leaned in the window. He goes, "You had enough yet?" So I said, "Yeah, I'm done." So sat there for a second, and then he grabbed me and helped pull me up, get me up out and sitting on the window. And then they got me to the care center and got bags of fluids in me. I was literally exhausted. I mean, you and I were on the same workout program and everything. Same nutrition program.
This morning, major.
Yeah. Got up out of bed, rolled
M&M's,
over.
right? Peanut M&M's. I mean.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I like the plane better, but yeah, get you going. So.
But then the second one, you were prepared.
Yeah, I was in a lot better shape the second time. We hired a trainer from the Carolina Panthers that Gibbs mandated if we were going to do this again. And literally, I lost 6.5 pounds before we even got to race day, just having the guy work with us for 3.5 weeks. So, and it wasn't working out. It was just literally, he was in control of everything that I put in my mouth for 3.5 weeks.
So he was cool with the SpaghettiOs.
No SpaghettiOs. The only time
that's just wrong.
The only time I got what I wanted was the night before the race, and he goes, "You can eat whatever you want tonight." So I literally ordered a large pizza from Pizza King, had it delivered to the track, and ate the entire pizza.
Oh my God.
In the motorhome. So they're not thick pizzas anyway, so it's a little easier to do it. But I was. I felt like a swollen tick when I went to bed that night. So
that's good.
You know, speaking of Coach Gibbs, Joe Gibbs, anything? Did you speak with him at all? I mean, he's one of the guys that owned a Cup team and owned an NHRA team. Is there any advice that you would lean on him for?
Well, I think I learned a lot from him when I drove for him, but he just laughed when I told him I was getting an NHRA. I said, "Well, I'm trying to be just like you. I got to have all this stuff." So, but he enjoyed his time in NHRA, and he loves obviously what he does in the NASCAR side, and I love what we do on the NASCAR side as well. So, it's neat to be able to kind of business-wise do some things that are parallel to what Coach did.
Yeah, special individual there for sure. No doubt. Another guy, much like yourself, just supremely successful at everything he's touched.
Yeah, and that's where I feel like the management side of it, that's what I've learned so much from him is how to manage people. And, you can sit there, and Joe had this unique ability, and I feel like we were catching on to that as well. But being able to sit there with 5 potential employees that going for the same position and they all have the same resume, but knowing which one of those people is going to be the right fit with the group and how to make sure that, we're putting the right group together, not just key individuals.
So hard to do that team chemistry. We talked about it. Everybody that's in this industry gets it, right?
Mike Hall.
That
because
was
we were
all about it.
We were asking Mike Hall, how do you go for talent? How do you find them? And I mean, it was pretty amazing how he explained all that.
Yeah, and that exactly what you said. Finding that person that fits in the hole that gets along with everybody else, because it only takes one of those people to destroy everything.
Exactly. Yeah, it can become cancerous very quick. So finding that right group of people that gel together and that have each other's backs and that motivate each other, and if something goes wrong, they're not pointing fingers at that person, they're helping pick them up and helping resolve it. So that's a big key in motorsports. That's a big key in life, business, motorsports, all of it. That is a very big key, is surrounding yourself with the right people, key people that are going to complement your life, not go the other way.
We'll talk to Tony about his SRX series when we come back. Stay with us here on The Skinny.
We got a hat. We got the low ET hat. That's what
It may have cost
right?
It may have cost a few more thousand.
I mean, it was an $80,000 hat, but we got a hat.
Welcome back to The Skinny. We have Tony Stewart on the set with us today, and so many different areas we can go to with him to pick his brain. Not much he doesn't know inside of this industry, but I want to go back to you being a team owner for Leah. Obviously, you two are married, dated throughout the course of a season there. How is that relationship? How do you separate that from your personal relationship with her when she's inside of the car? Are there times where you coach her afterwards? If she's had a bad day, you let her breathe, let her focus on it. Is there times where you look at her as a driver and say, hey, there's some things we can work on here and I think we can make you better?
The funny thing is I look at her and from the driver's perspective and I see me 15, 18 years ago. So I know exactly what to do and what not to do,
depending on not to do it,
depending on what the scenario is. But she's very smart. The thing about Leah that impresses me is she does a good job driving and she's passionate about racing, but she also understands the business side. And she reminds me a lot of Kevin Harvick that we have on the NASCAR side. He's so well rounded in understanding the business side of it, and Leah does the same thing. But when it comes to the relationship aspect, there is a balancing act. I mean, we leave the hotel or we leave the motorhome in the morning, we're a married couple. When we get to the track, we're still technically a married couple, but the dynamic changes of, the team owner and the driver. So it's that's the good thing about having two teams, is if she's having a moment and having something bad's happened over there, I go hang out with Hagen and their guys for as long as it takes for this. I just look over top of the hospitality trailer, and when the smoke starts dissipating, I know I can probably go back over to her trailer.
Is it one of those deals, let's say like a father-son combination, where sometimes it's just better if somebody else tells the son what to do to fix the problem? Because coming from dad just immediately becomes a conflict. And other times it does kind of make sense to walk up and say, hey, I really think I can help you out here if you want to, chat about it.
I think the only times I really get involved, I guess I should go back to most of the time what happens if something happens with the run and she's frustrated or the team's frustrated, they'll do a good job of talking about it amongst each other. And like I said, it's kind of a balancing act for me. If I'll go in and sit, but most of the time I'll just listen to how it's going, because I want to hear how they resolve the issue together. And then when it's over, if she's really beating herself up about it, I'll try to give her a perspective that I think is important and relevant to the conversation of how do you now reset your brain to go back and get ready to get in the car and go to the next round. So it's literally a balancing act of figuring out, everybody that I've ever been around, everybody's got that button that's the wrong button to push and you can put them on tilt, or there's that button that gets 110% out of them and gets them really centered. So it's learning that, but it's like I said, it's somewhat easier because like I mentioned, it's like looking at myself in my career, and she's got that same passion and desire and drive, and when it's not going right, she's hard to deal with. So it's like, I've seen this movie. I know how this ends. So it makes it easy to deal with her.
Haven't seen her fighting anybody at the top end.
No. Well, there's only one person to fight. I mean, when I raced, there were 39 to 42 guys to fight at the end of the day. You just got to pick which one you wanted.
Target-rich environment for him.
I mean. Which guy's going to be the one today? It's like you draw numbers out of a hat.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Do you think back when you were a driver of what the owner was going through at that time? You know, when you look at that perspective?
Yeah, and I've went back and apologized to the majority of the guys I drove for that had to deal with me.
So Matt Hagan off and running, a shot at a championship here, currently second in the points as you guys go forward. Certainly is clinched inside the countdown as well. But talk to me about how special Bandamere was for you whenever Leah finally stood on top of the box.
Yeah, that was a big day for us, and you know, I know some people had put online in social media that they were disappointed that she got so excited about a solo run, and what those people don't realize, it had nothing to do with that run, and it was about the journey to get to that moment. It was about getting married the week of Thanksgiving, and literally the Monday after Thanksgiving, we lived in Brownsburg in the motorhome with 3 full-size dogs for 60 days. Before it was time to go out to Phoenix for the test. I mean, that's how dedicated we were to getting this program up and going. And the process of starting with a rookie crew chief, a rookie team that hadn't worked together, and being able to go to that point and win an event like that, that was something to celebrate. That was something to be excited and proud about. So the people that had wrote negative comments, and there was a veteran drag racer that was really critical of Leah about that moment, it wasn't about that one particular moment. It was about what led up to that. So that's what made it special, and the fact of coming out of the gate in your rookie season as a team owner and having 2 professional nitro teams and them both getting wins in your first season. That's something that, you know, I think on Matt's side, we felt like it was inevitable, but we didn't know how long it would take to get Leah's program to where they were in a situation to win a race like that. So I'm proud of those guys, and I'm proud of Leah. She's worked probably harder than most drivers I know at making sure that everything in the organization's taken care of and that every person on that team's taken care of.
I think, you know, as a driver, I mean, it has to be a great feeling of confidence to be with an accomplished team, but also as a driver, let's just say mid-career for you in NASCAR, to step back and go with a team that was all brand new. That psyche in your mind is like, man, this is going to be a tough fight here, tough road to hoe here for a little bit.
Yeah, and there were moments that she was doing her job just fine. We weren't able to give her a car that could do what she needed it to do. So it's just part of the learning process. And like I said, there's never been one moment in this season where anybody's pointed fingers at anybody. Everybody's kind of had their moment where something's went a little sideways or got a little off. But like I said, we have a group of guys that all rally around each other. They support each other. They pick each other up. And that's why we've had the success with that team that we've had this year, is that we have like-minded people that have a common goal and are willing to work with each other to accomplish that goal.
But the biggest part is, I mean, the calmness and the situational awareness that you have within that group. They see you. If they saw you flipping out and throwing stuff like you used to, you know, they clearly would be flipping out and throwing stuff, you know, but you coming over and saying, hey, educate me on what happened. You know, so you know, for one, but the other side of it, you genuinely care. You want to understand how it did it, or okay, what do we have to do? You know, and I mean, that's huge. And Leah, I mean, I've watched her this year, as I've watched her for a long time out there, and I've watched her this year where she has evolved into something different. She's evolved into, you know, helping, you know, with the teams and, you know, some of the logistical stuff. And Kelly, I mean, unbelievable. I mean, Kelly, again, brings calmness. I'm not really sure I've seen Kelly get too fired up about anything, you know, excitable. But, I mean, that's a huge thing, and it's all from the leadership side of it, you know, that does it. And they're gonna mirror what you do. So if your crew was fighting back 15 years ago in Cup with you, that was because you started the fight, probably.
Well, it brings up a good point. So we were at Brainerd and the final round of qualifying in funny car, and they go down and it blows the motor and, you know, breaks the body and this and that. And we come back and, you know, I waited a minute before I went over. Well, I went over Hagen's still there, and he's like, man, I'm sorry, you know, I didn't catch it and this and that. And, you know, we just went low ET for the round and, you know, for qualifying. So we're number one qualifier. And so I'm excited about it. And they're sitting there, they're apologizing. Next crew guy comes by, he's apologizing. The guy that didn't have anything to do with it is apologizing. And this happens with 4 or 5 guys, and then Dickie comes out and he's apologizing. And everybody's pretty upset about it. And I'm like, well, we got a hat. You know, we got the low ET hat. That's what we. That's what.
It may have cost
right?
It may have cost a few more thousand.
I mean, it was an $80,000 hat, but we got a hat. I mean, that's the goal. So, and stuff's going to happen. I mean, you know, it's going to happen in this sport. And I guess it was. I remember Neil and Dickie had talked about it later, and I got wind of it. But they were like, couldn't believe that that's where I was at with it. And it's like, I own cars and I screw up and crash a car once in a while. I don't mean to do it, but it happens. But it's different if you know, if we were sitting there and we blew it up for 10th in qualifying, that'd be different. You know, it's.
Yeah, 10th for qualifying and half track, blow it up. And yeah.
I mean, if I got guys that are crashing cars running 18th or 20th, I'm going to be upset about it. If they're crashing going for the win, that's what we're here for. That's what we're, you know, I'm never going to give somebody a hard time for going for the win and going for the big prize at the end of the day. But if it's not your day and then you screw up and cost us a bunch of money for no reason when there was nothing to gain by one spot, then it doesn't make sense. So I think they were just kind of caught off guard that I just didn't flip out over that. But it's like, well, we got the hat. That's what we came for. So it's an $80,000 hat, but it's a hat.
Special hat.
Yeah.
In this guy's world, sponsorships are absolutely everything. And we're going to pick his brain about it when we come back.
When we run at the local fairgrounds, if we win the race, we take the trophy back to the Dairy Queen, just like we did when we raced go-karts every Saturday night, and I get a free chocolate shake, just like I did when I was 9 years old.
The Skinny is brought to you by Lucas Oil. Lucas Oil, keep that engine alive. Fatheads Eyewear. Fatheads Eyewear, hardcore since 04. Toyota, let's go places. And General Tire. General Tire delivers.
Welcome back to the Skinny. I'm Ken Stout. Rico Elmore sitting alongside with his good friend, Smoke. Tony Stewart has joined us in the studio here once again. And I'm going to kick this one off as we talk about sponsorships, because in this world, they are absolutely everything. But my good friend Charlie, who is great at finding little nuggets along the way, I called him and I said, hey, man, I have Tony Stewart on the show. I said, you got anything you might want to throw at us? And he said, rumor has it, he still has his very first sponsor, which was a Dairy Queen out of Columbus. And to this day, even recently, that you've gone back there. If you win, you get a free ice cream. Is that true?
Well, he's really close to being accurate on that. It wasn't my first sponsor. It was actually my second sponsor. But Bob Frankie owns the Dairy Queen in downtown Columbus, Indiana. And we still have him on our 3/4 midget that we run. And when we run at the local fairgrounds, if we win the race, we take the trophy back to the Dairy Queen, just like we did when we raced go-karts every Saturday night. And I get a free chocolate shake, just like I did when I was 9 years old.
I love that stuff. It's great, man.
It's the best.
Yeah, we're still great friends. I mean, we, I'll go in there all the time. And I remember when I got into NASCAR finally, and when I was in IndyCar, and then, got to NASCAR full time. Every time I would go in there, he, how you doing? And he'd want to know about my love life. What girl was I dating, or how many girls was I dating?
I bet that was great.
It normally would take a half hour or so to go through that aspect. And then he'd always
I'm going to need another shake for this.
Yeah. It's like, well, that was breakfast. Now it's lunchtime. But no, at the end of it, he always was like, he was always careful and wanted to know how I was doing with my finances. He was always worried I was spending all my money.
How did it start? How did it initially start?
My father somehow got him to sponsor us. And I don't know. I was, I'm an 8-year-old kid, 9-year-old kid at the time. I just thought I was the coolest kid because a chocolate shake was 99 cents. So with tax, it was $1.04. And every Saturday night when the go-kart races were over, literally it was 5 minutes from the fairgrounds. And we'd probably bring in 20 people a night there, which well covered the sponsorship. But I thought I was really cool because my buddies that I raced with, had to pay for their dessert, and I got a chocolate shake for free. They just hand it to me, and I'd say thank you and turn around and walk away. And I just stood there with my chest out. So,
strutting just a little bit in here.
Yeah. When you're 9, that's pretty cool when you got an ice cream sponsor.
Very cool.
So.
Rumor has it you bought something from in there. Inside the Dairy Queen.
Bought something?
their old the booth.
Oh, so there, you know, as I got to be an adult, I mean, every day at lunch there were 2 sets of benches that sat beside each other with a partition down the center, and we called them the Liars Club benches because it was the same old group of guys, and some of them were racers and some of them were just guys in town. But every day at lunch they all are there, and whoever's having the worst day, it's like a pack of wolves being on top of you. We're going to make your day either worse or better by the end of lunch. So when they remodeled the Dairy Queen, and I asked Julie, Bob's daughter that runs it, I said, you know, what are you guys going to do with the Liars Club benches when you get to them? She goes, we're just going to throw them out. I said, well, when you get to them, call me. I'll send somebody in. I want them. If you're just going to throw them out, I want them. They got a story. There's a history behind them. So they sit in my shop in Columbus, and people kind of look at them when they walk by, and then I'll tell them the story. This was my sponsor when I was 9 years old, and this group of guys, and now there's a new table. I mean, there is a dedicated table for the Liars Club now that doesn't look like anything else in the restaurant, but the same group of guys eat every day.
Yeah, that's and that's much like the story over there at Charlie Brown's, right? And a working man's pub in this Indianapolis, or working man's friend, in this Indianapolis area. And of course, the late Robin Miller and all his buddies would sit over there, and it still goes on to this day. It's really cool.
Every Friday at lunch, I went over there several times, and Robin Miller, of course, was the nucleus.
Oh, no doubt.
Means.
Yeah.
He was the one, and you had went over there, times too, but. Robin would pull out all of these. He would literally collect pictures, and he had some deal. Must have had a deal with the people at Roberts Camera or something. But he would go in there, and they would print all of these pictures, and he would come in and he would pass the pictures out to people.
And the conversations would just take off. Of course, all the memories just come flooding back to those guys, and really, really cool people that would hang out in there. I mean, industry-long people that have seen everything. But the stories are incredible. But those relationships that you're talking about that started so young, that's the way those guys are, and I can certainly see you wanting to keep those booths.
Yeah, and speaking of Robin's deal on Friday, I got invited all the time to go, and I knew who was going, and I'm like, I'm somewhere at a race on Friday. It's like the one time of the week that I'm gone, and it's like, oh. But that was such a cool lunch, and that's the thing that I'm glad is still going on since we lost Robin, is that they still meet, because there's days, Bones that is written for every major motorsports publication. We talked about him just coming down and starting to talk about stories that we remember, because I've had enough concussions. I can't remember everything, but you think about the era we're in. We do podcasts and we do audio sessions, and these are things that are going to represent us long after we're gone. So being able to do things like that and bring stories, and like you said, it just takes one or two elements of that story to bring back the rest of it sometimes in your memory.
And then one triggers another, another guy triggers another, and it's before you know it, 3 hours are gone.
And then we've started into stories that we can't publish and air and this and that.
Clearly.
But it's stuff that was fun, and it was important about that era of motorsports that we were all in at the time.
Yeah, and that was the thing. Uncle Bobby, he would call. He didn't know that we were on a different time zone than him, clearly, from New Mexico to here. He would call me. It'd be 11 o'clock at night here, and he'd say, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I'd say, "Not much. What are you doing?" I'm laying in bed, but not much. What are you doing? And I'm so grateful that I took all those calls. You know what I mean? Because it was always something he was talking about, and the same thing. Grateful for going to those luncheons and stuff like that, because those guys get talking about stuff and just ripping on each other nonstop. So
it's some of the best time. I mean, whenever you have a rain out and everybody's standing around, you're just hanging out, and the conversations that go on are absolute gold.
Yeah, we just have to be real careful in this day and age, because everybody's got a cell phone camera and records everything. But I get those calls at 11 o'clock at night or midnight from Kenny Schrader still. And I know if it's after 10 o'clock, I just don't know what level of alcohol has been consumed at the point that the call was made. It normally takes about 30 seconds, and I can make a level of 1 to 10 and pretty much gauge where it's at. So got a lot of experience with Schrader.
Tony Stewart, one of the biggest names in the industry, and we'll have more from him when we come back.
Just talking, and we do my thing, and I'm like, I'm getting ready to give your boy a lesson here.
Yeah, that's right.
And a lap later, I gave him a big slide job in 3 and 4 and went on.
Welcome back to the Skinny. Ken Stout, Rico, Elmore here, and we have Smoke in the studio with us here today. Plenty of stuff that we could talk to him about from his driving days, of course, just loaded with memories there. Now a team owner, also a series owner. Let's talk about the SRX because, man, oh man, you guys put together a great program there. Now 2 years complete. The first year, you came out of the box swinging, man. I mean, it was a lot of fun to watch. The short course stuff, of course, the talented lineup that you put in there, the ringer that you always have in there, the local guy that is so good at where he's at, brings a lot of excitement, and the fans want to root for that underdog, if you will, against the big guys, and of course the good guys, the bad guys, a little bit of everything. You put it all together in a short track, and man, it blossomed right away.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we were hoping for. It was, but it did. I don't think it necessarily caught us off guard, but I think we were surprised at how well the ratings were the first year and this past year. Definitely exceeded our expectations for the first 2 years, but it's been fun. It's you've got an eclectic group of drivers that you have every week, and some of them treat the cars like they're concession carts that have railing all the way around them, and some of them treat them respectfully. But it's the funny thing. I mean, Paul Tracy's probably one of my favorite guys that we get to race with there. In year one, he tore up everything and everybody else's cars most of the time. But he kind of embraced that bad boy image, and I told everybody, they're like, "Oh, please tell us you're not having Paul Tracy back this year." Are you kidding me? It's the first person I'm inviting back because he creates excitement. It's I told everybody, I said, tell me the last time you picked up a comic book and you had a hero in there, but no villain. It just doesn't work that way. You got to have the guy you love, and you have to have the guy that you love to hate. So, Paul does a really good job, and he actually didn't tear up the most stuff this year. Marco Andretti won the championship and won the award for tearing up the most equipment this year. I mean, he was tearing up everybody else's as well.
Speaking of an $80,000 hat.
Yeah, no kidding.
and breaking his hand.
Yeah,
that's right.
He paid a big price to win that championship, but it showed how much it meant to him to win the SRX championship this year.
Yeah, really cool stuff. The production on it, very good. Lindsay Zarniak, and she's an awesome person. Alan Bestwick, so talented for sure. I love the fact that you rotate different drivers in and out of the booth. It mixes it up. It brings something new. Obviously, the pit reporters as well. And I really love the vignettes that they do. They'll go off to, say, like Elio Castroneves' house and do a nice piece so you get to know who these drivers are more than what you see just standing there in a helmet. Really nice production.
Yeah, and I think, the thing that's great about the series is the drivers are people that the fans want to see again and want to see us back in race cars. But for the younger viewers and the younger fans, they may not know exactly what Helio's story is and what his history is in motorsports. So it's nice to be able to take those segments and kind of show everybody's personalities and their private life, and show how much fun that we're having at the racetrack.
It's so funny because whenever you say that, you think, man, everybody's going to know about Castroneves, right? I mean, he won the 500 4 times and just his career, but not necessarily true. And proof of that is Matt Hagan alone. I heard Matt Hagan on doing an interview with somebody. He says, yeah, I don't really watch much TV, to be honest with you. And he said, I really didn't even know what Tony Stewart had accomplished. I didn't know that he had won championships in NASCAR. He said, I don't really pay attention to that. So
that's all right. My wife doesn't know that either. So it's even.
I thought it was awesome. Like, here's a guy, a championship-winning funny car driver, really has who doesn't know who Tony Stewart is? Not that he didn't know who you were, but just didn't realize your level of accomplishments.
Well, but at the same time, it's, I didn't know who Matt was until I met him, with Leah, obviously. But I think we're all so ingrained in our silo and our lane of motorsports that, he knows the entire history of NHRA and knows every detail about that. There's so much that I don't know still. So it's easy to have that, but that's the fun part of what we do with SRX is all that crossover and doing those segments where, we kind of reintroduce these drivers to the fans again. But we're always looking at every aspect of it. I mean, the drone footage during green flag runs. I mean, there's so many areas. I mean, Dirt Vision's doing it now with World of Outlaws at the Chili Bowl. They're running drones inside the building. We were really the first group to really implement that during green flag runs. You'd see them under cautions, but you never saw it during green flag runs until we did it with SRX.
Is it the same guy every time? Do you know?
That's flying it?
Yeah.
I don't know, because there's multiple. There's 2 drones. There's a small, really fast drone.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's one that could literally pick you up.
Yeah.
It's.
I'm not really sure about that, but yeah.
That's called a helicopter.
Well, I'm willing to try. I'm willing to at least ratchet strap him to it and see if it'll actually pick him up. But it's got 6 props on it. It's a big, heavy unit. So
yeah.
even if it just gets him off there for 2 seconds and an inch off the ground, I'm going to call it a win.
Yeah. Until it gets it really heated up and drops the whole outfit on me.
Catches on fire.
But no, I was impressed with when we were in Connecticut again. I was amazed with the talent of that guy flying it. And it has to be a racing drone, because he was about keeping pace with you guys down the straightaway, and him going in the turn and sweeping it through there. I mean, it was cool to watch. Of course, with our involvement with the drone with the NHRA, I watched that stuff a lot more. But that kid, whoever it was, that guy was way talented, and it brings a total different aspect to it, like you just wouldn't believe. So
I was really nervous about it at first. I was nervous that it was going to be a big distraction when they flew from behind you across in front of you, and you see it, but it's not as big a distraction as you would think. So I think it brought an awesome element. Pam Miller does the production and everything, and she's done a great job. I mean, she's done so much great work with Fox, and she's really thinking outside the box with all the stuff that we're doing with SRX.
Yeah, I agree with him. That drone technology has come so far. I remember just a couple of years ago watching him on the short course off-road at Crandon, coming down with the trucks at 100 miles an hour. Would get in front of them and rotate it around so you could see them coming at you, and then turn it around and follow them. It was like, oh my God, that's an amazing shot. And like you say, the people that are flying them, who race them, they're just as talented. So it's pretty cool. Speaking of talented, how about you, man? I mean, I love the fact that they will dial you up on the radio in the middle of a race when you're in the thick of it, and you're having a conversation like you're sitting on the couch. Not everybody's capable of doing that, by the way.
I was there when that was born.
Yeah.
At Eldora.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that was Michael. Wasn't that Waltrip that...
Well, Daryl was in the car when we did that, and actually, no, at the SRX race, it was Hinchcliffe.
When we were at lunch.
Yeah.
When we were at lunch, Hinchcliffe's like, I'm going to hit you on the radio under green. He goes, give it to me.
And Hinch is that guy. Hinch is that. Like, he'll try to get you off your game a little bit because he's so sharp. He's so good in the booth, by the way.
Yeah, he's awesome. We like having him there. It was funny because I just caught Marco when he dialed me up, and I'm like, I'm a lap before he dialed up. I'm like, all right, I'm getting this in my head of what I'm already watching Marco as I'm catching him. I'm like, all right, this is what I'm going to do to get by, and this is where it's going to be. And so Hinch is talking, and we do my thing, and I'm like, I'm getting ready to give your boy a lesson here.
Yeah, that's right.
And a lap later, I gave him a big slide job in 3 and 4 and went on. So it just made for a cool moment. But I like that aspect of it. I mean, you couldn't do that in any other pro form of racing. I feel like I don't know that they would let that happen. But what we're doing with SRX, it gives us so much freedom to try things that nobody's ever done before and bring a totally different aspect to it.
You know what the next level is, right? All the drivers can communicate with each other via radio. That might be an HBO version.
Do you think they'd have? You think they'd have like CBs in there or something?
I think it would be pretty interesting to hear some of the conversations. I can tell you that.
I just want to listen to everybody yelling at each other. I think it'd be funny.
There would be some good stuff for sure. A lot of editing going on there. We've got one more segment. We'll be right back with Smoke.
Driver's door open, had it in reverse, revved the throttle up to get the wheels spinning, and then got out, got in front of it, got it pushed out. There's nobody in the lot because everybody else had made it to work.
The Skinny is brought to you by General Tire. General Tire delivers. Toyota. Let's go places. Lucas Oil. Lucas Oil. Keep that engine alive. And Fatheads Eyewear. Fatheads Eyewear. Hardcore since '04.
We're having a great time here in the studio. Speedway, Indiana is where it's all going down. Welcome back to the Skinny. Rico Elmore sitting alongside. Michael Young back over there, keeping us honest as well. And, of course, Tony Stewart sitting inside the studio. We just learned how to move a Corvette off of a parking spot that's loaded with ice. Care to refresh?
Well, I back when I started in IRL, I finally splurged a little bit when I got a nice contract and bought myself a very used late 80s model Corvette, and had an ice storm in the apartment complex we were at, and it had filled around the tires. So we put it in gear and just sat there and couldn't go anywhere because you couldn't get over the hump to get moving. But I had the door open, driver's door open, had it in reverse, revved the throttle up to get the wheels spinning, and then got in front of it, got it pushed out. There's nobody in the lot because everybody else had made it to work. But got it out and grabbed the door and then slid in the ice till it slowed down and swung myself in and got it stopped and got out and got going.
So the real question is, you're in an ice storm, you're in a Corvette. Where did you really go after that?
Wherever I needed to, but I just had to get out of the parking lot of the apartment complex. But yeah, it wasn't the most well thought out purchase I made, but man, it felt really cool to have a sports car.
Great stuff, man. He's got a ton of them for sure. Let me ask you a question. One of the few people, are you the only one that's won a NASCAR championship? 3 of them, by the way, and an IndyCar championship?
I believe so.
And for sure the only one that's also won Triple Crown and a couple Chili Bowls to go along with it. So definitely unique whenever it comes to everything you've done. Do you think we'll see it again? What do you think the chances are Kyle Larson at some point gets in an IndyCar just because it's there?
That's the one person that I would say would have a shot to do it. I mean, that kid is unbelievable. He's just a plug and play guy. He doesn't think about it. He doesn't know hardly anything about his race car. He just knows how to drive. And it doesn't matter what it is. I'm telling you, the kid could fly the space shuttle tomorrow. Just line it up, put him in it, tell him what to do, and he'll go and could execute it. But it doesn't matter what he drives. I mean, he's one of the best I've ever seen.
Were you surprised when he got back under the sprint car circuit and accomplished what he did?
Not at all.
Really?
I mean, that's his strength.
Unbelievable.
I mean, that's where he is legitimately strongest. I mean, he's a good cup driver, but he's a great sprint car driver. I mean, that is his home. That's his foundation. That's where he is at the most peace and comfort is in the wing sprint car.
I want to say he won 50% of his races that year.
Yeah.
It was some phenomenal
He was on a tear.
And he's driving a stock car at the same time and a midget and all that.
Late model.
Yeah.
I mean, and different owners. I think that was the other key. It wasn't like it was the same team. He was in different cars, but the result was always the same.
Yeah, there's a common denominator in all those variables. And
you're telling me he's really not that mechanical, so he doesn't come back in and say, the car's tight here, or we need to do this, or we need to do that?
He may give input on what he's feeling out there, but the crew chiefs are doing the work. I mean, Paul Silva does an amazing job running him. I mean, Paul's probably had the most success with him, but even Paul will tell you, he doesn't know he's a race car, but he doesn't have to. I mean, he's just that good, and if he can give the right information to the crew chiefs and let them do their job, I mean, he's put himself with good teams that can help him get those results.
So put him inside of an Indy car and we see the same success?
I think you would. I mean, I think it might be a little rough go. I mean, he might tear something up initially, but when he figures it out, I think he'd be great at it. I mean, he's one of those guys that just has that natural ability to get in any kind of race car and figure it out.
It's great to have Tony Stewart in the studio as always, and the relationship between these two definitely makes that a little bit easier to drag him in here. Super, super busy, as you might imagine, but man, we can't thank you enough for coming in here and sharing some of the stories.
Love hanging out with you guys.
Great stuff. So Tony Stewart, that's the skinny on that man right there. Hope you enjoyed the show.